So I want to talk about talent versus hard work. A lot of you are really naturally good at stuff, but maybe sometimes you don't put the practice in. How many times have you heard people say, I've been playing the guitar for 10 years, but maybe they only play once a month, or maybe they only play once a week. That's not really playing the guitar for 10 years. I don't know if any of you read this book called Outliers, but it talks about this. It's about Malcolm Gladwell. But it talks about this whole process of, having 10,000 hours to master a skill. So if I have to say to all of you right now, what do you think is more important? Actually having the talent to do something, or actually putting in the time to actually learn it? I'll tell you a story of how I became a property investor and how I became a speaker, and I speak all around the world. The first thing I did is I started learning how to find property deals. I wasn't that good at finding it before. And then I would call estate agents and I'd find out what are some of the things that they're learning right now, what are some of the things that they need help with. And quite often I would actually start finding all these different strategies that I didn't even know existed. For example, you can buy and rent a property, you can buy and sell a property, you can buy a property, rent it back to the person. So this is, strategies going back then. And then no one told me that you could actually buy a property below its market value. So when I talk about talent versus hard work, I wasn't naturally gifted at selling. So one thing that I had to get really good at is I had to learn how to sell. I had to learn how to negotiate. I had to learn how to do a lot of these different strategies that can really help you get to the next level. So for me, it's about finding what are you naturally talented at, and then how can you hone those skills to be able to capitalize on them. And I think too many people, they focus a lot on, it's not just about having the skill sets, but also finding the natural ability within that. So when I was negotiating deals, I would figure out, why is it when I say this, the deal doesn't happen? Or how come when I say this, the deal starts to happen? And it was through these nuances that I realized that, oh my God, every time I say sign the paperwork, the deal never gets done. I couldn't understand why. Because people, they've been trained to never sign on the dotted line. So when I would use words like, hey, I've got the paperwork here, would you okay the paperwork? I would start to get more deals. Like when I'd call people up and say, hi, is this Joe Blogg speaking, right? I'd always get a lot of resistance. But when I would call up and say, hi, my name is John Lee. The reason why I'm calling you is you filled in some details to sell your properties. That's something you're still looking to do, like get straight to the point. So I started getting really good at the hooks, right? And what are the hooks? Again, that wasn't a natural skill. That was something that I started to develop. That's why I talk about talent versus hard work. Is like, how did I develop the skill? By having thousands of phone calls, right? Speaking to thousands of people that want to sell their property. I saw a lot of people, becoming speakers. So how did I become a speaker? So as I started to get good in property, people kept asking me questions like, John, how do you invest in property? What's one of the best strategies to use? How can I start doing it? So I realized at the time, even though I knew what to say to people to get deals, when I would communicate things, it didn't quite always come across as well as I want to come across. How many of you got some great ideas and you go, oh my God, it's such a good idea, and you tell somebody what that idea is, and when it comes out of your mouth, it doesn't sound as good as it is in your head. That's what we say, we become a legend in our own mind. When I'm talking about hard work versus the talent, what does that really mean? So there's a quote that I posted on my Instagram. And the quote is, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, by Tim Nocte. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But when I read that quote, I was like, oh my God, he's so right. Like, I wasn't born a natural negotiator. I wasn't really born a natural entrepreneur, right? I had to develop the skills, because entrepreneurship, you're gonna get into challenges. You're going to get to a point where things are going to happen in your life and it's not going to be nice things. And so as an entrepreneur, we get to deal with it. So I just want you to know, whatever skills that you're trying to develop right now, whatever talent that you have. Now, here's the thing. If you have talent and you nurture the talent into a skill set, oh my God, you will fly 10 times faster than anybody else. Why? Because you have a least part of resistance, becomes natural, and it's easy for you to see the mistakes quicker. One of the things I started doing, even though I got good at negotiation, I then started practicing public speaking. I started speaking in front of like 10 people, and 20 people, and 50 people, then 100 people, then 1,000 people, then 2,000 people, and so on and so forth. And what I realized is that sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Sometimes it's knowing the nuances that when I say something, I have to maybe slow down what I'm saying to let that message land. And that's what I noticed with a lot of speakers. I noticed that the powerful speakers, you can have high energy like this, and you can be passionate like this, or you can be passionate like this, and just let those messages land. So I want you to write down all the things that you are naturally talented at, and I want you to write down all the things that you can actually do better. Because when you start finding the connections, and what I do, I'd write one list on one side and a list on the other side and start connecting them up and see how many of them connect and then rank it from 0 to 10. 10 being the top, 1 being, okay, maybe not so good at it. And sometimes we have to nurture the stuff that we're good at. So then when I started practicing a lot of speaking, I started practicing a lot of presenting. How to present on camera, how to present on an online conference, how to present in front of a live audience, how to present one-to-one. And when I understand all the nuances, like presenting in front of an audience, you have to speak like you're speaking to one person. Like for example, if I say, how many of you would like to get more time in your life? I would switch the word to raise your hand if you would like to get more time. So even though there's 1,000 people there, I don't speak to people like there's 1,000 people there. I speak to people like it's one person. Because that one person is what we call personal language. It's actually something called parasocial interaction. So parasocial interaction is where you're able to create something that gives you that connection with one but to many. So the one to many, when you're nurturing the skill sets, the talent is great. If you know what your natural talents are, write it down. What are you naturally gifted at? And if you don't know what that is, ask your friends. Say to them, hey, what do you think I'm really good at? So people say to me, John, you're really good at looking at business models, breaking them down, finding the holes and filling the holes so the business can double or triple in value. What do I mean by knowing what that true value is? Sometimes you can't see it yourself. Sometimes it takes time for other people to tell you. And it's not until you hear it a number of times. A lot of people said to me, John, like when you speak, you're quite motivational. And for a lot of the times, I didn't think I just speak the way I speak. I don't really think about it like that. Right? I think about how I do things and how I like to communicate it to other people. But interestingly enough, the more I started to do this stuff, the more people would say, oh, John, like, can you say that again? Can you explain that to me again? Oh my God, the way you explain things is so easy to understand. Part of it because of the fact I'm dyslexic, so I have to understand it deep, in my subconscious to be able to communicate it. But a lot of you have a lot of talent, but if you don't have talent, right, you've got to put a lot of hard work in. Right? The hard work means you put in the reps. It means that you have to be the person that runs on that treadmill. You have to be the person that lifts the weights. You have to be the person that makes that commitment every single day. And just like a muscle, if we're lifting a muscle and we're lifting weights every single day, guess what's going to happen? The first time it's going to hurt, right? How many have been to the gym before? I remember the first time I started working on my arms, I started lifting weights the day after. I couldn't even bend my arm. It hurt so much. But guess what? After a few days, the pain went away. Whatever you want to do in life, pain is temporary. It's not going to be forever, but you have to endure it to push through it. And that's why, again, if you're not good at something, what you used to suck at, you now start to become better at. And now better at, you start to become good at. And what you become good at, the more you persist, the better you become great at. And when you become great at something, you then reach a level of mastery. That's why they say it takes 10,000 hours or 10,000 attempts to do something to actually start mastering a skill. So when you start to realize that in a skill that you have, then you nurture that, your life will completely change, I promise you that. When I started to figure out what my natural talents were and what the skill set I needed to match that talent. Like if you use this hand, look at where your talent is, and use the other hand, look what your skill set is. Typically your skill set is lower than your talent for most people. If you're able to increase that and match it up, guess what happens? Once they align, something happens inside. Like for me, I thought, okay, I wasn't that good at speaking. I started practicing, and then 2 decades later, I'm only starting to figure out how to do it properly, and then how to use different mediums, whether I'm speaking on social media or to a camera or to a person or to an audience. It's different, but the different context applies to the situation that you're in. That's why not all things are the same. What works for you may not work for me, what works for me may not work for you, vice versa. So I want you to start thinking about all the different things that you know that you are naturally gifted at. I know your friends say that you're naturally gifted at it, but yet you're not nurturing it. And watch what happens when you start to nurture. I'd love to leave a comment below. Let me know what your natural talents are, and also what your skill set is that you're looking to do. And also, I'll link a video here as well so you can check it out. And also, if you know somebody who has a natural talent and they're wasting their talent, do me a favor, share this video with them, because I really want them to hear this message. And maybe you and I can help them nurture the talent so they become superstars. All right, so do me a favor, like this video, it really help the channel, subscribe to it, because I'll be uploading more new exclusive content. Other than that, check out this video here now.